He walked into his own diner like any other morning. The smell of coffee, the chatter of regulars, the warmth of a place he built from nothing. But today, no one knew who he really was. He came undercover, dressed like a stranger, just to see how his staff treated customers when the boss wasn't around. Then, from behind the counter, a whisper cut through the noise, quiet, cruel, and unforgettable. It wasn't just a word. It was a truth he could never unhear. What happens when the man they're mocking turns out to own the place? Marcus Reed had worked his whole life to build that diner, brick by brick, shift after shift. To the locals, Maple Street Grill was just another breakfast spot. But to him, it was proof that a black man could rise above the whispers, the stares, and the odds. Every stool, every coffee cup, every paycheck carried his story. He treated his employees like family, or at least, he thought they were. From the outside, everything looked perfect. The morning crowd laughed over pancakes, the radio hummed softly, and Marcus smiled behind the counter, proud and tired in the best way. But something had been nagging at him, complaints from customers that didn't add up, a certain coldness in the staff when he wasn't around. So, he made a decision. For one day, he'd walk in not as the boss, but as a stranger. No suit, no introductions, just another man ordering breakfast. He wanted to see the truth for himself. What he didn't know was that a single whisper that morning would shatter everything he believed about loyalty, respect, and the people he trusted most. The bell above the door jingled as Marcus stepped into his own diner. Only this time, nobody knew. His crisp white shirt was replaced by an old hoodie and jeans. He kept his head low, pretending to scroll on his phone as he slid into a booth near the window. The smell of bacon and coffee wrapped around him, but it didn't feel the same. It felt colder, distant. A young waitress walked past his table, eyes skimming over him like he wasn't there. She greeted the couple behind him with a bright smile, poured them water, and took their order. Marcus waited. 5 minutes. 10. Still nothing. When she finally stopped at his table, her smile vanished. "Yeah," she said flatly, pen tapping against a notepad. Marcus smiled politely. "Just some toast and coffee, please." No eye contact. No warmth. She scribbled his order and left without a word. Across the room, another waiter laughed with a group of customers, the kind of laughter Marcus used to be proud to hear in his diner. But now it stung. From the kitchen window, he caught sight of something that twisted his gut. The waitress leaned toward the cook and whispered. Both glanced toward him, their faces tightening with something between disgust and mockery. The cook muttered something under his breath, and they laughed. Marcus's pulse quickened. He tried to steady his breath. Maybe he was imagining it, he thought. Maybe they were just joking. But then he heard it. Faint, cruel, unmistakable. Probably can't even pay for his food. It hit him like a punch. His hand tightened around his cup. He'd heard those words before, years ago, when he was trying to buy the building that now held his name. Back then, he'd proved them wrong. But now, in the place he owned, he was being treated like nothing. The coffee came cold. The toast was burnt. And when he asked, quietly, calmly, for it to be fixed, the waitress rolled her eyes. "Sir, if you don't like it, maybe you should try somewhere else." Somewhere else. In his diner. He looked around. None of the other customers seemed to notice, or maybe they chose not to. The laughter, the clinking of dishes, it all drowned out the sound of his pride breaking. Marcus sat there in silence, staring at the counter that once symbolized his success. Every brick of that building had been a dream. Now, it felt like a lie. And then came the whisper. Soft. Sharp. Final. That's him. The owner. The one who thinks is better than us. Time froze. The cook's smirk, the waitress's sudden stiffness, they'd realized who he was. The laughter died down, replaced by a heavy, uneasy silence. Marcus stood up slowly. The room that once felt like home now felt like a cage. He could feel every eye on him, watching, waiting to see what he'd do next. But he didn't speak. Not yet. Because what was about to happen next would expose more than just their prejudice. It would reveal everything. Marcus stood frozen, every sound in the diner fading into a low hum. The clatter of plates, the chatter, the laughter, all gone. Only that whisper echoed in his head. The one who thinks is better than us. He took a slow breath and stepped toward the counter. The waitress stiffened. The cook looked away. Every eye in the diner seemed to follow him. "Everything okay, sir?" The waitress said, her voice suddenly polite, too polite. Marcus didn't answer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small set of keys, old, tarnished, and familiar. He set them on the counter, the metallic clink slicing through the silence. "Those keys," he said quietly, "open every door in this building." The room froze. The waitress blinked. The cook's smirk vanished. "I built this place," Marcus continued, his voice shaking, not with anger, but with something heavier. "The sign outside. The one you walk under every day. That's my name on it." Murmurs rippled through the diner. A few customers turned, whispering to each other, trying to process what they were seeing. The waitress's face went pale. You're Mr. Reed." Marcus nodded slowly. "The same man you laughed about. The same one you said didn't belong." No one spoke. The silence was almost painful. He looked around the room, at the staff he once called family, at the place that once made him proud. "I came here today because I wanted to see how people are treated when no one's watching. Now I know." He turned toward the door. For a moment, no one moved. Then a voice, small, trembling, came from behind the counter. "We didn't mean it like that." Marcus stopped. He didn't look back. "You meant every word," he said quietly. "You just didn't think I'd hear it." He pushed the door open. The bell rang again, the same way it did when he walked in, but this time, the sound felt heavier, final. And as the door closed behind him, the diner fell into a silence deeper than guilt, the kind that lingers long after the truth is spoken. Marcus didn't go back to the diner for 3 days. The keys stayed on his kitchen counter, the same counter where he'd planned his dream, drawn the first sketches, and written every menu item. But now, those keys felt heavier than ever. They didn't just open doors. They unlocked a truth he could never unsee. When he finally returned, it wasn't to fire anyone or make a scene. He walked in quietly, as himself this time. The staff froze, eyes down, voices low. No one dared to meet his gaze. He could have yelled. He could have shamed them. But instead, he simply said, "I built this place on respect. If you can't serve people with it, you don't belong here." One by one, they lowered their heads. Some apologized. Some didn't. But the silence said enough. Marcus didn't stay long. He handed management over to someone he trusted, someone who understood what dignity meant. Then he stepped outside, feeling the cool air hit his face, and for the first time in days, he breathed freely. But the moment stayed with him. That whisper, that look, that quiet cruelty. It wasn't just about him. It was about every black man or woman who's ever had to prove they belong, even in spaces they built themselves. And that's the truth so many still choose not to see. Racism isn't always loud. Sometimes, it's a whisper behind the counter, a glance, a joke, a silence. But its weight, it's heavy enough to crush a lifetime of effort in a single moment. Marcus walked away that day, not defeated, but awakened. Because sometimes, the most painful truths are the ones that force change. And the question that lingers isn't about him anymore. It's about us. When will we stop whispering and start listening?